Hello, I am Sofia Cavaco from the new University of Lisbon, and along with Sofia Martins, we are presenting the paper Customizable Serious Speech Therapy Games with Dynamic Difficulty Adjustment for Children with Sigmatism. This work results from the collaboration between computer scientists and speech and language pathologists. It is part of the Biovisual Speech project in which we develop computer tools for speech and language therapy. There are several partners in the project whose names appear below in the slide. And while the particular games that we are presenting here were developed at our lab in the new University of Lisbon, they use components and data that were developed by the project's partners. It is important that children with speech sound disorders attend speech and language therapy in order to correct their speech problem. This is important to improve their communication skills, but also for the integration with peers. During the therapy sessions, children are required to repeat the speech exercises often, which may be tiring for the children. Our goal is to help motivate the children on doing the speech exercises often. So, since children enjoy playing computer games, our proposal is to combine computer games with the speech and language therapy exercises. That is, we propose to develop computer games that integrate speech and language therapy exercises. Here we are not creating new speech and language exercises. We are just using speech and language exercises that are usually done during the speech therapy sessions, and we are adapting them to computer games. So the goal is that when children play these games, they enjoy playing, they are motivated on playing, and without realizing they are also practicing the speech and language therapy exercises. And since they are having fun, they will do the exercises often without complaining, and they will collaborate on doing those exercises. Another aspect of this work is that we want the games to be available to be used at home. Usually children go to the speech and language therapy sessions once a week, and that is not enough to improve the language skills, the speech skills fast enough. So children have to do the exercises, the speech exercises at home. With these games, if they are available to be used at home, children will practice the exercises at home without realizing they are practicing, and they will have fun while they are practicing the exercises. So in this way, we want to contribute to make the children have reach improvements in a faster way. As mentioned before, our approach is to have computer games that use the speech and language therapy exercises that are already being used in therapy sessions. This may be done by integrating the exercises in new computer games or by using gamification techniques that make the exercises look like computer games. An important characteristic of these games is that they are mostly controlled by the child's voice. The child has to do the speech exercises in order to progress in the game. If the child does the exercise correctly, she or he will progress in the game. Otherwise, the game won't progress. Another characteristic is the visual feedback given to the child about the speech production. And this can be given through the behavior of the game's character or in the way the game evolves. In the Biovisual Speech project, we address European Portuguese. The speech and language pathologists working in our group have identified a lack of computer tools to support speech therapy for sigmatism in European Portuguese. Sigmatism is a speech sound disorder that consists of incorrectly producing sibilant consonants. So the games proposed here address the European Portuguese sibilant consonants. And these are the sounds S as in snake, Z as in zebra, Sh as in shark, and J as in the Portuguese word joaninha, which is ladybug. And it's almost like the sound in Asia. These sounds are made using different parts, different regions of the mouth. So, for instance, s as in snake and z use the alveolar region of the mouth. And they only differ on the use of vocal folds. So, s is a voiceless sound, it doesn't use the vocal folds, while z uses the same place of articulation, but it is a voiced sound. It uses the vocal folds. On the other hand, sh and j use the palato-alveolar region of the mouth, and one is voiced, j, and the other is not voiced, sh. Okay? So, sometimes children have difficulty on producing one of these sibilant sounds, or they can have difficulty on producing more than one of these sibilant sounds, and they can also make a bit of confusion between the sounds because they are so similar. For instance, they can have difficulty on distinguishing when to produce s and when to produce z, because the place of articulation is the same, but they just differ on the use of the vocal folds. Speech therapy has several stages, and when children have stigmatism, one of the first stages is to start practicing the isolated sibilant sounds. So they start to practice producing the s, z, sh, j sounds. We have previously developed and proposed games for practicing these isolated sounds, like in the example in this slide, in which the child has to produce the sound j to play the game. So, in this paper, we propose two games for a more advanced stage of speech therapy. In this stage, children have to practice saying whole words that contain sibilant sounds, or they can do other exercises where they identify words, where they identify the sibilant sound within words. So, in the left we have a game which resembles the game of cards, in which we have to find pairs of cards with the same image. So this is the pairs game. And in this example, the matching pair is those two cards that have the image of a soup cup. And we have on the right another game which is a maze. And the goal here is to find the treasure. The games are customizable, that is, they have a set of parameters that the speech and language pathologist can choose to make the game meet the child's needs. The games have visual and auditory feedback that helps the child understand his performance, and the games include a system of hints that helps the child understand what to do when the child is failing the exercises. Now, the proposed games have two different modes, a more basic mode and a more advanced mode. And in each mode there are different levels. To make these different levels, we can use the same speech exercise but with different difficulty levels, or we can use different speech exercises. One of the speech exercises used in these games is the production of words with sibilant consonants. For instance, in the case of the pairs game, the image on the left, the child has to find pairs of cards with the same image, and this image has it represents an object whose name has a sibilant consonant. And the child will win the pair after she pronounces the word. And now, to check if the child pronounced the correct word, we check two things. We check if the word is correct, but we also check if the sibilant consonant is correctly produced. As for the maze game, what happens is that while the child is traveling through the maze, she will see images, and these are obstacles. And to pass those obstacles, she has to say the word for that obstacle. In order to classify the speech production, the games use automatic speech recognition. They use a sibilant consonant classifier that identifies if the child correctly pronounced the sibilant sound, and they use a keyword spotting system to identify if the child produced the correct word. Some aspects have to be taken into account when choosing the words for this exercise. To start with, it is important to consider the location of the sibilant phoneme within the word. It can be at the start of the word, the middle, or end of the word, and different locations present different production difficulties. Another aspect is the structure of the word. It is also important to consider the structure of the word. Words with a structure that is always consonant, vowel are easier to produce than words that have sequences of two or more consonants. Another aspect to be taken into account is if the word is a common word. Words that the children are used to hearing in their daily lives are easier for them to produce than words they only hear once in a while. So, as I mentioned before, these games have different levels. So what we do is to use different structures, different positions of the sibilant consonant, and also words that are common or words that are less common in different levels of these games. Another exercise used in these games is the identification and production of sibilant consonants. In this exercise, the child must identify the sibilant consonant within the word and then produce that sibilant. So, this exercise practices the production of the sibilants, but also their recognition. And how do we adapt the exercise to the game? So, in the pairs game, what we do is that the child has to find pairs of cards with images that have the same, that use the same sibilant sound. So instead of finding pairs of cards with the same image, they have to find pairs of cards whose images use the same sibilant sound. So in this case, we have a matching pair with a boar and an alligator. But the words in Portuguese both words start with j. It is javali for boar and jacaré for alligator. So the child would have to identify this pair, and then she would have to say the sound j to win the pair. Another exercise in these games is the minimal pairs exercise. Minimal pairs are words that differ only on a phoneme, and children often exchange words in minimal pairs, so this exercise is frequently used in speech therapy. So here we adapt this exercise to the game by presenting pairs of cards that do not have the same image but have images of minimal pairs. So for instance, in this image we have a card with the image of this number 6, which in Portuguese is seis, and another card with an image of kings, which in Portuguese is reis. So the words seis and reis are minimal pairs because they only differ on the initial phoneme. So in this case, the child would have to identify those two cards and then say both words. The final exercise is the recognition and distinction between sibilant consonants. So here the child, instead of producing words with sibilants or producing the sibilants, the child has to identify the sibilants. Okay, so here we adapt this exercise to the game by having pairs of cards that make sounds, and the sounds are those of sibilant consonants. So when the child selects a card, instead of having the card turning upwards showing the image, the game will simply play a sound. In order to win pairs of matching cars, the child has to find pairs of cars that contain the same sound. To conclude, we have proposed two games for Sigmatism that integrate several speech exercises done in speech therapy, and which are the production of words with sibilant consonants, the identification and production of sibilants, the minimal pairs exercise, and the recognition and distinction between sibilants. The games are customizable, that is, the speech and language pathologists can choose several parameters in order to adjust the game to the child's needs. They include visual and auditory feedback in order to make the child understand, help the child understand her speech performance or his speech performance. They include a system of hints that helps children perform the exercises when they are having difficulties. They include two modes, a basic mode and an advanced mode, and these have several difficulty levels. The difficulty levels can be chosen by the speech pathologist or they can be chosen automatically. That is, the game can automatically adjust the level of difficulty. The games include automatic speech recognition in order to check if the word produced by the child is correct and if the sibilant consonant is correctly pronounced. And so for this they include a sibilant consonant classifier and a keyword spotting system. We have not discussed it in this presentation, but the games have been validated by 4 speech and language pathologists.